So hello and welcome back. My name's Jesse Muirman Marshall, and tonight we have a sample pack opening live. So we're doing this over on Twitch. For you YouTube people, we'll be chucking this over on YouTube as well so you can watch it later. And we've got a few of the people who are involved in the break here live in the chat, which is great. So welcome down to Damo and Ivan, who've both got slots. And then we've got a couple of other people watching live in the chat as well. And I know that a couple of the people who are in the break are going to be watching it later on YouTube. So good luck to you from the past. I've got all the slots laid out here on the top down, so we'll just go over to the top down now and take a look at there. So I'm going to try and show as we go through. I'll try and get all these names in view. And then yes, as we go through the pack, I'm going to try and show the alpha version. So we had a question in the chat from Dean, who was wondering what is the difference between the pre-alpha cards in the sample pack and the alpha packs that we would have found in our boosters. And the answer, Dean, is that there are a bunch of cards. Almost every card has some tweak. So they've got different mana cost, different effects, different templating, different name. And then there's a bunch that were removed entirely. So pretty much all of the quick spells, so those that could be cast at instant speed on your opponent's turn, or on your turn at different times other than at sorcery speed, have been removed from the game. The only one that remains is dodge roll. So there's a bunch that were counter spells. There was one counter spell for each rarity. And then there were a bunch of other quick spells which have either been reworked. Things like Extinguish used to be a quick spell. Now it's just an ordinary that does something else. So those things are all very different. And then even things like the Melissa Benson gems that are now the cores, in the sample packs, they were actually called gems and they were exceptionals rather than uniques. So you can get those artworks from Melissa Benson in the exceptional slot. And conversely, the mixes that are now elites were actually more similar to the cores. So they provided you a 1 mana cost reduction for every spell of that color or that type. And they were uniques. So they were in a different slot as well. So I think we'll get going here. So we've got Damo with slots 1, 2, 3 in the ordinaries. We've got Jesse T on Discord, who's got 4, 5, 6. Devon O has 7, 8, 9. Ethan has number 10 in the ordinaries. TWA, the channel, is keeping number 11 in the ordinaries. And so that's in order from front to back. The exceptionals, Ivan has all 3 of those. So good luck, Ivan. And then we've got Jeremiah on the elite / oh, look, I don't want to jinx Jeremiah, so I've got to add unique to that. Elite / unique. So I was looking at a bit of sample card population stuff today. And Mike over at Collector Art House, shout out Mike, who has a veritable bevy of sample packs, thanks to being one of the Avatar of the Realm backers. He's done a few sample pack breaks, and he has done also some analysis of the sample pack population based on what we know. So through the Kickstarter, there were a range of different tiers that got sample packs. The Avatar of the Realm got the most, and then the collector tier I think got 4, and the some of the sorcerer backers, the early birds, got 1. And based on the number of sample packs out there and the number of cards that are estimated to be in the sample set, Mike's estimated that the unique population is about 2.5 cards. So there might only be, 2.5 Philosopher's Stones out there on average in the whole sample pack population. So any of the uniques is going to be really, really special, but the population for the elites is also really small. So without further ado, we'll dive in. I'll put this fireball away for now because that's just a placeholder. And what we're going to do is, as we go through, we'll look up each card on Curiosa so that we can get an idea of how it's changed from the sample pack. So we'll dive straight in. Dean says, if I knew that was the case with the cards, would have jumped in for sure. Next time, definitely. Well, hopefully there is a next time. We'll see what we can do, Dean. So I'll show off the pack a bit first. So it comes with this sticker from Eric's Curiosa showing the authenticity of the sample pack, all sealed up at the back. Nice and thick foil. It's actually a very, very thick foily plastic on the sample packs. I'll bring it a bit closer. Well, there we are. Lock me in if there is. Good luck to everyone at tonight's break, though. Thanks, Dean. So yes, a nice up-close view of the pack, all sealed up at the ends. Excited and ready to go. All right. So let's crack in. So I think based on watching other sample pack breaks, Don't want to do any edge wear here, so I'm actually going to grab some scissors. Double check that there are no cards in the top of the pack. There are not. And we'll very carefully make an incision across the top of the pack, just to stop ourselves from doing any damage to those cards as we come down the side. So we don't want to spoil anything, being very, very careful. All right, I think we're okay because the front card should be an ordinary based on what I've seen in the other sample packs. So we're gonna, oh, not quite open on that side. Here we go. So the other thing that Mike observed in one of his sample pack openings is that a lot of them do have this sort of edge wear on the bottom. And that is partly due to, I think, the cutting technology that was available at the factory at the time they did the sample pack. Those of you who've been following the Kickstarter very closely would remember that Eric's Curiosa actually invested quite a bit in improving the factory between these sample packs and the alpha print. And I think the cutting technology and the new cutting blades was one of the things they definitely changed. So we'll go over to the front, and we do start with an ordinary. So we've got Azurij Caravan is our first card. So we're gonna take this nice and slow. We've just got 15 cards. We've got a bit of time to get through it. And we're just gonna make sure we enjoy every single card. So we'll bring up the Azurij Caravan alpha version over here. All right, so we've got an Azurij Caravan. You can see that the sample pack version is 5 cost, 4 power, the same. It's an ordinary array of mortals and beasts rather than an ordinary convoy of diverse kin and kind. And it says summon on 2 adjacent sites and occupies 2 sites. So it was the only minion, as far as I'm aware, that occupied 2 sites. We did have some other large minions, and we still do have Mountain Giant that occupies 4. But the Azurij Caravan was a large minion on 2 sides, which is quite interesting. But we lost that functionality along the way, and we've now got this all elements and minion types. So a special different card there for Damo. We'll sleeve that one up, and we'll flip over the next one in a moment. So congratulations, Damo. Card number 1, an Azurij Caravan. Very, very cool. Card number 2 for Damo. A Sandstorm. I don't know whether we've got anyone in the audience tonight who enjoyed Team Covenant streams during the Kickstarter. So Dean, no sample cards in foil. They're all non-foil. Zach and Stephen over at Team Covenant, big fans of their channel. Shout out to Zach and Stephen if you do happen to be watching. They are the ones who got me into Sorcery. It was their videos about Sorcery during the Kickstarter that persuaded me to back it. And Zach tormented Stephen with this card in their initial games when they were testing the game with the previous precon decks that were made before alpha. Because as you can see here, it says conjure at the intersection of 2 or 4 sites as long as at least one is a fire site. So they had to roll minions who wanted to move within the sandstorm actually had to roll a dice and in order to move, and if they didn't roll the right roll, they would be stuck in the sandstorm and they would just move around in random directions. So they might move up, right, down, left, and only if you rolled a 17 or 20 could you move and attack normally, which meant that for 3 mana, if you plonked this down, it would pretty much just ruin your opponent's day, because it covers 2 or 4 sites as long as one is a fire site, so you can just stick that in the middle of the board and no one can go anywhere. Thankfully it was toned down a little bit in the alpha version. You can see it just lasts for 1 turn and it stops attacks and intercepts, but this old version of Sandstorm was an absolute powerhouse at ordinary. So there you go. That's a little piece of history, both because of, I think, what a major role it played in those early Team Covenant streams, where a lot of people were getting into the game, but also just a really cool and different effect there. So that's card number 2 for you, Damo. It is indeed a brutal card, and beautiful Drew Tucker artwork. You know, really vibrant on the yellows. Like the sorcery cards, you know, we get a bit spoiled by the fact that they're all full art, but gee, it just looks awesome. All right, so next card for Damo. Oh, hang on a minute. got a random exceptional. All right. I'm gonna have to put that one aside, and I'm just gonna off camera check for a moment whether the next card is also exceptional, because we've got 2 ordinaries and then we seem to be going into the exceptionals. I'm just gonna figure out what is going on here. Okay, the next card is also an exceptional. So we're going to assume that what we're going to get now in the pack is the 3 exceptionals and the elite/unique. So we'll take a pause on Damo's cards and we'll do these for Ivan as the 3 exceptionals. So here we go. Peregrine Apparition is Ivan's first exceptional. As you can see, the old one was 3 cost, 1 power, airborne, and moved freely. So it could go anywhere in the realm. The new one has Void Walk, and it's got movement +3. So reasonably similar. Transcendent velocity on the old one, and limitless velocity on the new one. So this is the perils of live television, folks. Everything doesn't always go to plan. Sometimes the exceptionals are in a random place in the pack rather than at the end where they should be. The next card is another exceptional, because I've checked it. And it is Crave Golem from Brian Smith. So it's 4 cost, 3 power, and we'll bring up the new one. Did any artwork differ between sample and alpha? Yes. So we had a bunch of artworks that are sample exclusive, so they haven't been reproduced in alpha. And then there are a bunch of alpha artworks that were done later, which didn't appear in the sample packs. Things like the Chains of Prometheus artwork and a few others as well, Starseeds of Ur. So Crave Golem, you can see here, the alpha version attacks a random unit in its range of motion and takes a step towards the closest minion if it can't at the start of each turn. And the old Crave Golem is actually just a 4 cost, 3 power, colorless minion that has charge. It can move and attack right away when summoned. So that was pretty powerful. That was like it's basically the new Petrosian Cavalry, but any deck can play it at any color. So that's pretty awesome. Very, very powerful and very cool Brian Smith artwork there. Now what we assume is exceptional number 3, I'm going to go to the next card. What we assume is exceptional number 3, but if it's an elite or unique, of course it goes to Jeremias. And then if we've got extra elites or uniques later in the pack, then we'll decide what we do with those in terms of the order as well. But if it's an exceptional, it's going to Ivan. So back to ordinaries. Okay, that's very weird. So this one, we're going back to Damo. Damo's next in the ordinary order. So he gets a Sacred Scarabs, which we'll compare to the existing one. And I'll just sleeve up Ivan's 2 exceptionals in a moment, but we'll get up the Sacred Scarabs for comparison's sake here. So Damo picks up what is a very cool artwork from Melissa Benson. And one of the cards in the sample packs, you'll see this a bit, a lot more of the cards have that grid of damage. So we retain that on things like Craterize and Major Explosion in the alpha set, but it was a lot more prevalent and a lot more common at ordinary rarity and the lower rarities in the sample packs. And as you can see, Sacred Scarab's already a powerhouse in its alpha version with the Death Right deal 3 damage to each unit here. But the sample pack version is a whole level further. It deals 3 damage on death on its own site, and it deals extra damage all around it as well. So for an ordinary for 2 mana, you get this massive bomb that can hit a grid of 9 sites. It's pretty strong. So that is a very cool hit for Damo. So we'll sleeve that one up for Damo. Worth checking to see if there are more or less exceptionals or elites going forward. Yes, so I could do that, Ivan, off camera, but I kind of feel like I want everybody to see what's going on live, just for transparency's sake and everything else. I know I checked one of the elites very quickly there, but I don't want to take the pack off camera too much. So we might just have to ride the bumps as we go through this. So we've got 2 exceptionals for Ivan, and if we're missing exceptionals or elites, I should say, I'll sort that out with Ivan and Jeremias afterwards, who've bought those slots. We'll see what's next. We've got an ordinary Fey Changeling. So this has received a bump in rarity in the alpha set. So it did cost 2, and it now costs 3. It said Changeling may be played on any unoccupied site, unsummon target minion there when you do. So it had a very, very similar effect, but it was just worded a bit differently. So in the sample pack version, this one's going to Jesse T. You get a slightly cheaper, ordinary rather than exceptional, and uses that unsummon language, which is a nice little throwback to Magic as well. And of course, that very special artwork, which we love here at the Winning Agenda because it was our submission to the Life Imitates Art contest. So that's a nice hit. So I'll put that one down in Jesse T's pile, and then we'll see what comes next. Sleeve that one up. Beautiful card. And the next one is another ordinary. So back to the ordinaries. Unravel. Dean says, glad there was a widespread debuff between sample and alpha. Yes, I'm very glad of that as well. Losing a few of these crazy effects was good. Reserving them for uniques and elites rather than having a lot of really nuts things at ordinary was good. So Unravel was a 1-cost water card originally. So this is very different. So I'll bring up the new Unravel, which is an earth card. So the new Unravel is earth. So this is water, 2-cost for the new one, 1 cost for the sample. It said destroy target relic or undead minion, and the new one says destroy all artifacts and undead minions at a location up to 2 steps away. So the previous version had a lot more range, and it was water. So some interesting, weird little changes there. Ordinary magic of Rot and Rebirth, and of course that amazing Severin artwork. That's a real fan favorite, that artwork. Awesome. So that's card number 2 for Jesse T. Get that one in a sleeve. So enjoy that one, Jesse. And then card number 3 for Jesse is a Miracle Workers. So this one is a very, very cool one. It's 3 cost and 1 power. It's a spellcaster in its sample pack version. And it says, we'll just bring up the new one as well to contrast. If one of your minions dies near these healers, return both to your hand. So it had a lot more flexibility in this version. As with all these ordinaries we've seen so far, it had a lot more power because it allows you to basically play this and then you could attack one of the opposing minions, like you could fight, and then if one of your minions dies near the healers, you get to return the Miracle Workers to your hand and the card that died. So you do have to pay to play the Miracle Workers again, but it basically means you can use them a little bit like Tor's Hammer Trinket can now be used. You know, you play it on one of your minions, attack with it, make it stronger for a turn so it can fight something and survive, and then the trinket goes back to your hand. This version of Miracle Workers you could play out for 3 mana, fight a 5 power with a 5 power, yours would die, it would go back to your hand, and your Miracle Workers would go back to your hand as well, so you could use it again the next turn. So it's a pretty cool effect for card advantage. It's a really strong piece of card advantage actually in combat. And the alpha version is cool, you know, returns something that died this turn from your cemetery to your hand, but Miracle Workers, the old version, had the capacity to do that over and over and over and over again, which was pretty amazing. So that is card number 3 for Jesse T. So we'll get that one in a sleeve for you, Jesse. And then we're moving on to Devon's cards, hopefully. There's a nice Grim Reaper combo for you, Dean. Yeah, absolutely. Old Miracle Workers certainly did a power of work. All right, so have we got another ordinary here? We've got Devon up next on the ordinaries. Yes, we do. So we've got Berry. Let's have a look at the new Berry, I should say, in Alpha. So the new Berry costs 3, burrow target artifact or minion if able. Old Berry costs 2, target minion or relic on a non-water site is burrowed. So same effect, but the cost has been upped from 2 to 3, which is very reasonable. The old one specified non-water site. We've now got that if able language, which is a bit tighter. And the type line, as with most of these, has changed. So ordinary magic one hopes to never experience, which is definitely an understatement, as opposed to ordinary magic of Terranian internment. So that's a nice one for you to start off with there, Devon. One of the most powerful ordinaries in the Alpha set, and a very, very iconic piece of artwork. So we'll get that one sleeved up for Devon. Very cool. Next card, which should be another ordinary for Devon. Oh, Ivan, this is your exceptional number 3. So we'll put a pause on Devon. And this is one that is very special. That did not make the alpha set. It's a Drew Tucker artwork that is exclusive to the sample packs at the moment, not in alpha. So it's a net, cost 3, conjure on a site near a friendly minion. All minions are immobile and can't attack. If there are no minions here, return this net to its owner's hand. So very cool piece of temporary removal, a little bit like the blue removal enchantments that you might see in Magic. It immobilizes something, it says it can't attack, but if they manage to move their minion away, you get to return the net to your hand. Very cool effect. We might see it return in a future set, but at the moment, this beautiful Drew Tucker artwork is only available on these sample cards, not in alpha. Amazing coloring. It's got that really cool sort of pastel pink, yellow, blue skyline. Really awesome. Congratulations, Ivan. That is a very special hit. We'll get that one in a sleeve for you. And really good condition as well, I must say. The gloss on that looks awesome. It's got no edge wear on the back that I can see straight away. Nothing immediately obvious. And tiny little nick on the bottom corner there, which you might be able to see, but yeah, otherwise looks fantastic and a very, very special card. So congratulations, Ivan, exceptional number 3. And then we should be getting back to Devon's ordinary. So Devon, ordinary number 2, Old Salt Anchorman. We'll get up there was no new version of Empyrean Net, but we can get a new version of Old Salt Anchorman up for you to have a look at. There he is. So the new version says 2 cost 2 power, nearby allies can't be moved by enemy spells and abilities. This one says 1 cost 2 power, Anchorman and nearby allies are removable by enemies. So pretty similar, just a slight tightening up of the wording, but a very similar effect. 1 cheaper, like this is a Swamp Buffalo with upside, which is pretty cool. Anchorman and nearby allies removed by enemies. And the type line, ordinary pirate mortal hold steady and true, which is the same. Slightly different on the flavor text in terms of where it's placed on the card, centered on the new version. And it's Samuel Coleridge rather than Epictetus rather, on the new one. So a different quote in the flavor text on the sample version. That's cool. So we'll get ordinary number 2, Old Salt Anchorman, in a sleeve for you, Devon. The pack distribution is indeed wild, Ivan. That was not what I was expecting. So ordinary number 3 for Devon here, or if it is the elite or unique, it'll be for Jeremias. It is ordinary number 3 for Devon, and it's a dodge roll. So this is a cool little relic, even though, funnily enough, it is the one piece of quick magic that was retained for alpha. It's still a very special relic of the game's development and history to see that quick keyword here. So you can see on the type line, as with all sorcery cards, any word that is capitalized, the first letter on the type line, is a game relevant term, and you can see that quick on the type line here is capitalized, meaning that it has a game meaning. And the meaning was, of all the quick cards, of which there was quite a few, that they could be cast basically at instant speed in Magic parlance. So it was a quick spell that said target minion in harm's way, which was another rules term in the early rules that meant if you're about to take damage, moves to an adjacent location, cancel the attack or spell targeting the minion. So it was more powerful, more flexible. It costs 0 still, whereas the new one is only when an ally is attacked, it can be moved. This could also save your ally from a lightning bolt or from any other spell. So dodge roll used to be able to save your minion from any removal spell or any other harm that was coming its way, which is pretty cool. The new version, of course, can save an avatar, whereas this could only save a minion. So that's a little bit of additional flexibility. But yeah, so some very cool relics of sorcery past with the quick keyword there on the timeline. So that's number 3 for Devon. So Ethan with ordinary number 10. hopefully. Let's see what it is. It's a site. All right, so it's a bedrock. That is really cool. So that's been also upgraded in alpha. I'm not going to try and get that out because it's going to be a completely different orientation to all the other cards in my card window. But a bedrock is now an exceptional site that can't be modified, basically, in alpha, whereas this version, nearby sites are indestructible and can't be altered. So kind of similar, but this original version, despite being ordinary rather than exceptional, actually affected all nearby sites, which is pretty cool. And of course, that very almost like paper mache looking artwork on this, which is very distinctive and different to a lot of the other cards in alpha. All right, so we'll sleeve that one up for Ethan. And then we've got the last ordinary, which we'll take a quick look at and then get on to the main show. So we had the exceptionals popping out way earlier than we expected, which created a little bit of a different up and down vibe to this particular pack opening. Or I might have spoiled a little bit of the artwork on the Elite there, or the Unique. Hopefully not too much. So Blood Ravens is our last ordinary. That'll be safe for the channel, so we'll just put that one in a sleeve quickly, and then we'll come back to that Elite. So Blood Ravens, airborne, and for every point of damage they deal, you gain 1 life. So a very, very similar effect. Hasn't changed a lot in alpha. There we go. And then Jeremias, drumroll please. Let's see what the big hitter is. Oh, well, don't want to hit the camera on the way through. All right, what have we got for you, Jeremias? It is a Riddle Sphinx. Very, very cool. Melissa Benson artwork. A very different effect. Actually has received a bit of a buff in some ways in alpha. So let's have a look at the Riddle Sphinx. An Elite Sphinx proffers perplexity, as opposed to an Elite Mystic puts you to the test. So it's gone down from 7 to 6 in terms of cost. It's still 4 power, and the effect used to be search your spellbook for 2 different cards, reveal one and conceal the other. Your opponent chooses which one you keep and which one you shuffle. Reveal the card that was kept. So it was similarly a riddle, but you actually got to design the riddle. So it was sort of a gifts ungiven, if you're familiar with that Magic the Gathering card. It had a bit of that vibe about it, except the other one didn't go into your graveyard, it got shuffled in. And you only revealed one and you concealed the other one. So Riddle Sphinx, the new version, you don't get to control them. You just look at your topmost spell, you can put it on the bottom, and then your opponent can make you take back your scry if they want to. So similarly, your opponent's operating on limited information and making a call, but as opposed to this sample card Riddle Sphinx, where you get to decide what all the hidden information is, the new one, you don't have quite so much control. So Jeremias, if you want to, jam down this old Riddle Sphinx on the table and just tutor up your 2 best cards and make sure that you put yourself in a winning position, that seems like a pretty powerful thing to be able to do. So thanks everyone for tuning in. This was very, very special. Probably not going to be able to do another one of these on the channel, barring something very, very special happening. But it was a real privilege to be able to open up these special sample cards for all of you. And I hope that you enjoy playing with them. Quickly take a recap. So Ivan, your exceptionals, Crave Golem, Peregrine Apparition, and that very special Empyrean Net. Jeremias with the Elite, got that Riddle Sphinx, and then we've got the bunch of ordinaries. Some very, very cool ones among them. We've got the Berry, the Unravel in a different color, the Quick Magic in the Dodge Roll, Sacred Scarabs, the iconic Sandstorm over there in the corner from the Team Covenant streams. So plenty of very, very cool cards in the pack. Thanks everyone for tuning in live. Thanks for being here in the chat. All of you who have cards in the break, and those of you who just wanted to see what's in a sample pack. And we'll see you on the 6th. Ivan, thank you for coming down from Sydney to Melbourne, which is a 1-hour flight or an 8-hour drive. It's really exciting that you've chosen to make that trip to come and be a part of our event at Plenty of Games next week. Is it next weekend? Yeah, the 6th of August. Gosh, it's coming around soon. Thanks everybody else in the chat who's going to be there as well. Thanks all of you who got involved in the break. And thank you to those of you who are watching on YouTube. We'll see you next time. Cheers.